Testing in production.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Coop 1.0 live stream. Um, we hope that you're, bearing with us a little bit as we get through some of our technical difficulties with our first live stream. But I think we're going to have a really great stream today, showing off and celebrating the release of Coop 1.0, our first big 1.0 product release for Coop. We'll start out with some quick intros. If you've been following the project, you may have seen some of our faces. Otherwise, you may not recognize us. I'm Cassidy. I'm the open source community manager here at Roost. I have a background in open source community across like the Linux desktop space, and more recently now taking a deep dive into trust and safety with Roost, and enjoyed every minute of that. We also have Juliet here. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julia. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the head of product at Roost. I'm also part of the founding team, and I spent about 10 years in the tech industry building trust and safety products. I was Snapchat's first PM for safety. I led the safety and anti-abuse team at Grindr, and then I did it at Google. And I found us building the same tools. So that's part of why we created Roost. We'll get into that more, but yeah, we're excited to make these tools more openly accessible, usable by everyone.
Awesome. And then we also are joined here by Juan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Juan. I'm the Senior Technical Advisor at Roost. I am also the lead contributor for Coop. I have over 3 years of experience in trust and safety. I have some experience being also a lead contributor on another open source project, which Coop uses. And I love the work that we do here. I love open source and bringing trust and safety to everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've got a great team. Great show today, great stream. We'll start with, in case you just stumbled upon us somehow and you don't actually know what Roost is, or you've heard of us and you just haven't gotten the details, just a brief intro to Roost. So Roost stands for Robust Open Online Safety Tools. We're a nonprofit building open source trust and safety tools. An important thing I always like to call out is that we don't actually host tools or provide services ourselves. We make, release, and maintain the tools as open source projects for any platform to use, adapt, and build on. So that's what we're all about. Yeah, and I'm sure we could have a whole stream just about Roost, but I really want to get into Coop here. So I think we'll kick off with Juliet. Can you share a little bit about why does Coop exist? What makes it different?
Yeah, so I've worked at a few different companies. They're all really different, and they were all really different sizes too, which meant that we had a lot of different resources. And even just looking outside of where I've directly worked, trust and safety has historically been a little opaque. Like there's not a lot of like academic research or like published documentation about the types of tools and technology that online platforms, online communities use to actually do the trust and safety. There's a ton out there about like how do you properly govern a platform? How do you write good policy? The Trust and Safety Professional Association is my number one shout out because they have amazing curriculum to learn all about trust and safety. But even then, it's like it's hard to know kind of like what does a tool look like? How does it feel? How does it really work? And what does a code look like for the teams that have to use these to kind of operationalize trust and safety? There are vendor tools out there, and they are fantastic. They are powerful and sophisticated. But for a lot of different communities and a lot of organizations, they might be too expensive to use, or they're too powerful for kind of what an organization needs today. Or they might be free, but difficult to access. And this is especially true if you're maybe new to trust and safety, if you're just like a new startup and you want to do right by your users, but you maybe don't have the connections, you don't know the people, you don't know the hidden URLs to go fill out the form to get access to the thing. And going back to where I'm coming from, I have had to rebuild the same tools over and over again. And when we were first incubating Roost, we tried to look for some of that research of like, why do people keep doing this? What are other options that are out there? And we didn't find much. So we actually wrote a research paper about this. It's called the Four Functional Quadrants of Trust and Safety Tooling. Because when we talked to all these different safety teams, anti-abuse teams, trust and safety teams, like we found that even across different types of sectors, different types of industries, different sizes, the rough categories of tools that everyone use is pretty much the same. So if anyone's going to TrustCon, we will have a session and a panel called "Your Tools Aren't Special," talking about how we have more in common than we might think. Everyone needs review queues, whether you're looking at user reports, whether you're using any kind of technology to kind of proactively detect something. Everyone needs rules because, human judgment is so critical for trust and safety, but there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet and it's hard for people to keep up. So how do we really like amplify the impact of people? Everyone needs the ability to take action and
Mm.
enforce on, content or accounts. That also includes reporting things to NECMEC, the National Center of Missing Exploited Children. And of course, like we need investigation tools to make sure that every organization and team knows the full scale and scope of whatever problem that they're dealing with. When we were really getting into this, we found that child safety tech was actually some of the most expensive and most difficult for organizations to adopt. It's a lot of really niche knowledge, and everyone was just doing it from scratch. And there was no kind of like public developer community where people could really ask each other questions, get help debugging something, or collaboratively work on solving bugs. There were amazing tools out there. We actually collected some of them in Roost's very first GitHub repo, Awesome Safety Tools, which is mostly just a directory of the stuff that we know is out there, and it's submitted by the community as well. Those are scattered APIs, some open source projects like Hasher Matcher Actioner, the open source project that Juan mentioned earlier. And Coop is great because it is that review tool. It is that like singular hub that brings together all these different signals, pulls together a few different scatter projects and puts them into an end-to-end product that's also open source and super customizable and adaptable to what anyone needs.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that story of like we rebuilt the same thing over and over internally or at different companies so many times. It makes so much sense to bring it into one open source project.
And it's studyable. I think like, transparency
Yes.
is a big reason why we want to do the work that we do at Roost is like, for civil society, for researchers, for policymakers, it's hard to kind of like really, create policy or like make recommendations when you might not have as much visibility into like what is technically possible based on the tools that a lot of organizations use today.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing why Coop came to be. Definitely also want to share, in case you have not been following Coop as well, like what are the features of Coop? What can Coop do? Um, so you can hear right off the bat what it can do for you as a platform or as a trust and safety team. So this is a fun bulleted list here, and there's a whole lot more than what's on this slide, and we'll get into that in a demo in a little bit. But just right off the top, automated enforcement based on your rules as a platform. So if you have known behaviors and rules that you can say, yep, this is not allowed on our platform, or if this behavior happens, then here's the consequence or here's the action that we'll take. That can be completely automated within Coop. It also has manual review of reports from both users or things that have been flagged by Coop itself, routed into queues that make sense for your platform and your trust and safety team. It also has like really, really rich organization settings. It's very customizable. As an open source project, it's very customizable at the source code level, but it's also customizable within Coop itself in the settings to make sure it's set up exactly the way your team and your platform operates. It has a whole bunch of signals and operation or integrations, things like Google Content Safety API. I believe we are the first open source review dashboard that just built in is integrated with Google Content Safety API. So I know that's something that they ask you when you submit to use the Google Content Safety API. They ask you, do you have a tool to review things? And now with Coop being free and open source, you can say, yes, we do. We have Coop. It also integrates with HMA, which is Meta's Hasher Matcher Actioner for hash matching known unwanted images and videos that plugs into organizations like NECMEC and Stop NCI. And there's another one I'm not remembering off the top of my head.
Tech Against Terrorism.
Tech Against Terrorism. Thank you, Juliet.
And you can make your own hash banks.
And you can make your own hash banks as well using HMA. That's right. If you have unique content or content that you can say, this content always has to be actioned in this way, you can have your own hash bank with HMA built into Coop. It also integrates with NECMEC Cyber Tipline. So if you do have CSAM coming in, you can report directly to NECMEC with a rich, actionable report straight from Coop. Again, very rare to have that in a free and open source tool, especially. And also OpenAI's moderation API and Zentropi's COPE models for the OpenAI moderation APIs for harmful text and image classification, and Zentropi's COPE models let you bring your own policy-based classification. So a whole bunch of integrations. And actually, to chat a little bit about that last one, Zentropi, we do have Dave and Samidh here from Zentropi. If I can let them in here. Welcome. We've got a whole bunch of people there. I'll hide my screen so we can see more of our faces. Welcome, Dave and Samidh. Thanks for joining us here on our live stream.
Thanks for having us.
So yeah, just wanted to chat a little bit about sort of why you integrated with Coop and share a little bit about what Cope can do. I know it's confusing. Coop, the ROOST project, and Cope, the Zentropi model. But if you can share what Cope can do for safety teams, yeah, take it away.
Yeah, cool. Hey, I'm Samidh. I'm one of the co-founders of Zentropi along with Dave. Spent a long time in industry and platforms on the trust and safety side, leading various product teams. And one of the challenges that we had time and again is that we needed to have very, very accurate content classification for areas where we had some custom definition for what the policy should be. So something that was bespoke, not a completely standard thing, something that we wanted to be able to detect with very high accuracy and ideally at low cost. And so Dave and I kind of created Zentropi and the associated models in order to be able to make it very easy for people to create their own custom content classifiers, where you define the rules of your policy/criteria. And our Cope model is a small language model that we especially train specifically for the task of being able to interpret content policies and evaluate content against it. And we have a variety of associated tools as well that help people craft high quality policies that then can be fed into the Cope model. So what this really allows you to do is it allows you to create classifiers essentially on any topic that are accurate, very fast, and inexpensive to run at scale because they're powered by a small special purpose language model. The reason we wanted to integrate this with Coop is, what we have is just sort of one part of a broader solution that you need in order to be able to do trust and safety well. And what makes Coop awesome is that since it's an open source platform, kind of the best kind of special purpose tools of trust and safety can be plugged into it. And then overall, the platform becomes more powerful, kind of the more specialized tools that are plugged in. And so we wanted to be able to contribute an integration where if you have some specific kind of detection that you need to do, some specific type of signal that maybe doesn't follow the standard sort of conventional definitions of something, Zentropi allows you to do it. So I think at some point you'll see in a demo, essentially what you do is through the Zentropi service, you go and create we call it a labeler, and also known as a classifier. And that's where you'll sort of draft your criteria and policies. And then within the Coop interface, you just drop in the ID of the labeler that you've created, and then it automatically comes into Coop as a signal that you can recombine in the rules engine and use for real-time detection. And so we're just super excited to be one small specialized part of this overall solution. Very grateful to ROOST for creating kind of this general platform that does the messy work of knitting together a whole bunch of specialized tools for a very important piece of trust and safety tooling.
Awesome.
Dave,
Yeah.
anything to add?
Not really. I did want to sort of double down on your point about us being able to help folks with the policy writing part of it. One thing that was sort of interesting as we all try to push forward the boundaries of trust and safety tooling collectively as a community is that as we get better at certain things, other things that become bottlenecks, which previously didn't get to be bottlenecks because we were struggling so much with the precursor activities that we weren't good enough to cause the bottleneck. And an interesting thing with this sort of pushing forward of steerable classification is that the actual policy writing then becomes quite difficult, and the speed at which you can figure out how to express what it is that you want out of the system becomes sort of the new bottleneck once the doing of the classification becomes faster. And we spend a lot of time sort of at Zentropi in a way that should be available to the community, working on tools to push forward the ability to help people automatically get those rules dialed in without necessarily having to have a ton of specialist knowledge, which can often be, to Juliet's point about knowing where all the things are buried, a barrier in this space to getting the best out of your tools and systems.
Awesome. I'm trying to pull up a demo right now, full transparency here, but I'm having trouble logging in. Let's see. Juliet's going to fix permissions for me. This is why we do live demos. It's always a fun time. I'll log in here.
My favorite bad AI joke is that we're going to solve superintelligence before we solve video conferencing. So the first thing you ask, the first thing you ask Skynet is, please, can you make Zoom work?
I like that. Let me grab the login here so I can demo this properly, because I do want to show people what it looks like. I think that's really important to see hands-on what it looks like. Yeah, I can't log into the admin account for some reason, so I'm going to log into the moderator account, and we'll see.
Yep, and I've just updated the permissions on moderators, so it's for
Perfect.
today, moderators can be admins.
Sounds great. That's why we have configurable permissions, right? I'll show that off a little bit more later. Hey,
that is
look
the
at
only
that.
reason.
That is the only reason for live demos. All right, here we go. I can share my screen now, and you should see Coop. And okay, so what is the most helpful thing to demo showing off Zentropi? I guess first, how you configure it is probably helpful.
Yes, especially because the Zentropi team is awesome. The models that power Coop, this is an API integration with Coop, but the models are actually open source and fully available on Hugging Face as well, at least for text classification. So they've actually added all the details of their model card directly into Coop. We really believe that people should have full understanding and visibility into what their model is trained on, how it was labeled, how it performs before deciding if it's the right option for them. So you can actually go click through both the Zentropi integration and the OpenAI integration and see all those details directly in Coop. For this example in our live stream today, I just used a labeler that I pulled from Zentropi's policy library or labeler library, which is great. They have templates where you can kind of build off of it. If you've never written policy before, it's a nice starting point. If you're like me and needed a policy in 30 seconds, I chose one for positive sentiment. For our live stream, our demo org is called Platform A. I decided just now that the A stands for angst. So for today, we're going to use this to be anything that's positive, we don't want it on Platform A.
Awesome. Okay, and then so showing how this is how you configure it, but then how does it actually show up? And again, we'll go into a full demo later, but we can show a little bit of a sneak preview at this, right?
So if you go to routing rules, Cassidy.
Routing rules.
It's a manual report.
Yeah.
And also note, you can create and tune your classifiers and your labelers directly on Zentropi's website. I have a fun time playing around with their fine-tuning UI, where you can kind of test stuff. You can give it more examples, refine it. It makes a lot of that just understandable.
So yeah, right here built in, we have relevant to policy. Oh, I have to choose an item type, don't I? So if we have a post, what are we going to call this? This is our positive sentiment. Then once we choose that it applies to a post, you can choose if any text in the item, or you could say specifically, any specific piece of that post. Then you get to choose the signal, and right here is where you'll see your Zentropi your configured Zentropi integration, and you can click through, and you can also see the details here. It's got the recommended thresholds right there, which is really handy, and then you can say to use the signal. And you select which of your labelers that you have. So yeah, if any text in the item matches, I'm going to zoom out here because I am zoomed way too far in, is greater than or less than or equal to, you can determine based on your thresholds. So we said is greater than 0.8, let's say, then we would know it's very, very high likelihood that it's a positive sentiment according to this labeler. But it's not the most interesting demo there, but it does show you how you can pull it in, and then you can route, or if this was an automated enforcement rule, you could actually perform actions based on this as well. But you could say, okay, let's route this to the positive sentiment queue, and then let's save. So then we have that Oh, you already have a positive content. I could have just looked at the existing positive content. Let's see what Juliet did for the positive content. Hey, look at that.
The
Oh,
exact same
0.2.
thing.
So much lower threshold. But yeah, same idea there. So yeah, this shows you how you can create a rule. You can combine multiple conditions, so you can actually combine different signals together, which is really interesting. And it'll combine those when it routes or performs actions depending on your rules. So yeah, very very cool integration straight with Zentropi. And Zentropi integration is free, right? It's built into Coop. The integration itself is built into Coop. Dave
Yeah.
and Samidh, tell me a
Yep.
little bit about that.
Yeah, it's built in, and it uses our API, which then runs the Cope model underneath the hood. Obviously, there's like certain rate limits and so forth associated, with the API to make it usable by everybody. But the Cope models are also self-hostable. And the Cope B model is under an Apache 2 license, and we have sample code available for anybody who wants to be able to self-host it on their own infrastructure. And at that point, the incremental cost of doing a classification is essentially free when it's on your own infrastructure. I think the integration as we currently have it uses the API by default. It doesn't yet sort of point to a local self-hosted endpoint, but it could. And this is why I'm going to sing the praises of open source platforms, that if anybody wants to build that integration to be able to pull from any sort of self-hosted model, doesn't have to be a Cope model, I'm sure we'd be very excited to review the PR.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be a great first contribution for somebody. Maybe I'll go file an issue after the stream to explicitly have that request in there. That would be great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave and Samidh, for joining our stream. We've got a few other things we're going to dive into next. But yeah, thanks again. I guess if I didn't prep you with this ahead of time, but if there is somewhere to send people to get in touch with you or to learn more, where can we send them?
Our emails are just our first names at zentropi.ai. So Dave at zentropi.ai and Samidh at zentropi.ai.
Awesome. Making it easy. All right. Thank you so much.
See ya.
Thank you.
All right. I have to get back to my my control interface here. This is new. This is new streaming. All right. Next on my agenda, I have Juan is going to talk a little bit about how Coop actually works a little bit here, right? We've got a diagram even, so I'll share my screen for that too, because everyone loves a good mermaid diagram.
Yeah, we can go on the slide, right after this one. Let's kind of talk a little bit about Coop and how it works. How would you put Coop in your integration, in your platform, and the things that you do? So, as we kind of mentioned and we've hinted at, right, it is an open source project, which means that you have full control of everything. You have the ability to make modifications, right? You can integrate it whichever way that you want to integrate it. And we have some sample examples on how to use it locally. We Docker compose, we do deploy Docker containers, but let's kind of dive into the most philosophical parts, like how does it work? Like where do I put it? So Coop normally sits somewhere in your platform, alongside your platform, and there are two parts of the Coop ecosystems that you want to understand. So when it comes to Coop, you have the code, you have the packages, you have Docker images, you have everything ready packaged for you. We provide the endpoints, the backend, some front end, right? So your engineering team basically just have to work on how do we integrate into Coop. And then your trust and safety team or your moderation team ends up defining the policies, how many queues do you want to have for review, who has access to those queues, what sort of rules for routing, for matching, for enforcement, the different types of items that you want to send, right? So we have a section for schema definitions where you define how much, what the content is that you're sending and what the shape of that content is, right? And then we have a section for actions, which there are some built-in actions in Coop, but there's also custom actions, which are effectively webhooks where you say, hey, when a moderator says this, send me a request with some sort of parameters, maybe even custom configuration, and then I am able on my platform take action on that content or that user, right? And it all is integrated via API keys, right? And we also have integrations. We also have the ability for custom integrations. So you can build out your own integrations for your own models, for your own things. If you have already some systems that define thresholds, classifications, labels, whatever it is, you can integrate that with Coop, which then fits in into the policies, the definitions, and the rules. So
Mhm.
if we go into the next one, then it gives us that diagram that we're sort of hinting at. So when it comes to your platform and Coop, there are effectively two endpoints that are the main entry point for a platform um, from the platform to Coop. We have the submit items endpoint, which is meant to be some sort of stream-like uh, event processing. So every post, every time somebody creates an account, every time somebody makes a comment, every time somebody uploads an image, whatever it is, the sort of content that you want to
Mhm.
proactively moderate, that is what you submit into a stream. And then you define your rules based on when the post does this, or when there's this signal, or when there's this threshold. Then some sort of action gets performed or nothing happens, right? That is what we call proactive rules, and it has its own type of enforcement. And some of this enforcement may be, hey, when this happens, I actually want to send these to the manual review queue.
Mhm.
Now, when it comes to reports or a reporting endpoint, it's more of a user report. Let's say a user flags some sort of content uh, that should be looked at by a user. It goes into the reporting endpoint. And then from the reporting endpoint, there are some routing rules where you, again, can perform some of the heuristics, some of the matching, some of the signals to then determine which queue should it go to, right? So you have full
Mhm.
control of both proactive moderation as items are being added, as things are being processed in your platform, and then reactive sort of targeting where if somebody does a report, I actually want to send it to a specific queue. And those queues are configurable within the sense of like you can define who has access to be able to process items on that
Mhm.
queue. So if you have a moderation team, you can do
Yeah.
that. Or if you want to define based on different indicators, like we saw with positive sentiment, let's say there are some things that are more urgent. So you want to have that queue there specifically for those urgent items, and you
Mhm.
can process them faster while the other ones can sort of take a little bit of time and it is sort of okay, right? So those are the two sort of main endpoints that we have on on Coop when it comes to your platform to Coop, and then from Coop to your platform we have those custom actions that we just talked about, which is the ability for us to send you a webhook with some authentication, with some custom params, for then have you take action on those items, whether it's banning the user, deleting the item, deleting the account, or taking some sort of other action around, let's just shadow ban, let's just mute this account, let's uh, kind of put them on some sort of timeout, whatever it is,
Mhm.
those actions are defined by you on your platform, and it gives you full control, which is really nice because not every platform is the same way. Not every
Yeah.
enforcement has to be the same way. You have the control on that, and we just give you the tool for enforcement, moderation, and actioning on content.
Yeah. It maybe undersells what Coop does a little bit, but I think of Coop as like it's the piece of plumbing that connects like it connects your platform to your moderators and
Yeah,
it handles it in both directions, right?
yeah,
But what
and
how
you
your
can see it
platform
as
works
that.
is yeah.
Yeah, and the plumbing it's a great example. Just that you have some logic gates in between of like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
let's hold the pieces here for a moment while a moderator defines and then kind of routes scenes to another place, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I think you covered all of this stuff. We have another page full of bullets, so we
Yes.
don't have to cover all of this. But if people want to pause and read this in a little more detail, and another place people can go to read a whole lot more. Which tab is it? I have too many tabs open.
Yeah. Our
Uh,
documentation.
yeah.
Thank you, Cassidy. You did an amazing job.
Thanks.
It has been an undertaking to put a lot of these things into writing in a way that is consumable. Obviously, also, as we said, right, this is open source. So if at some point you see something that you're like, you know what, this doesn't explain the thing to me properly, you can always file an issue. You can also just do a pull request and update the docs. It's like, I followed
Yeah.
these
There's a
steps,
little
I
edit.
got stuck, and
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, I got stuck here because I forgot this thing or this wasn't clarified. Yeah, you can edit and you can submit a pull request, and then we'll be more than happy to sort of go out and look at it and bring that back to the community. And that is the biggest thing of open source, is that you have community, you have a lot of people that truly care about what we're doing,
Mhm.
and you can always contribute back to help the next person.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. That's awesome. I think we've talked a lot about Coop and its features and what it can do. Let's show it off a little bit.
Cool.
I think Juliet and I are gonna run through a little bit of a demo here to show Coop in action a little bit more, to give people a clear understanding of like what it feels like, what it can do. Yeah, let's jump into that. Let me make sure I have the right thing shared. Let's see. Oh, I do want to say we do, while we have a content warning. It's kind of a content non-warning a little bit, but it is a little bit of a disclaimer. The stream, we've been talking about things kind of abstractly, the types of harms that can happen in online safety. We're not planning to go into any more detail than that. But this demo does share like live social media content. We've done our effort to like filter it, and we'll try not to show anything that's harmful or unwanted. But it is a live demo with live social media content. I just want to give that flag out there real quick.
And a shout out to the app protocol for making it possible to actually demonstrate how Coop works, because we get the fire hose straight into
Yes.
Coop.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. For this demo, Juliet, should I jump in? Should I stay in that moderator account? Is that the most useful?
Yeah, I think so. It's got all the
start?
same permissions as admin now, so you should be able to go through everything.
Perfect. Okay, let me share that then. So yeah, this is Coop. If you have not seen Coop before, this is Coop. This is the dashboard we start off, but I'll let Juliet kind of drive, or I'll let Juliet kind of narrate what we're gonna go through here.
Yeah, so when you first land on Coop, this overview really gives you kind of like some of the most important information that a lot of teams that do moderation, that do safety, typically want to look at. They want to know, like, what are the top policy violations? Like I said, we're platform A, we're like the worst platform. We don't allow art, we don't allow positivity. So those are going to be our example policies for today, because we just have no room in our life for joy. So when you look at the overview, it's going to give you a few key metrics. It tells you how many things are pending review. It tells you that breakdown between automated actions and manual actions, as well as actions that have been taken. And if you scroll down, it'll give you a lot more metrics in terms of like which moderators are taking decisions, how many policy violations have taken place. There's a lot more deeper analytics once we get into the manual review part. But this is kind of just like everything at a glance. And from here,
I would say, as a sort of a disclaimer too, like this is a demo code space we have up running, so like obviously there's not a whole lot of information here because it's not something being used in production. But as things actually happen on the platform, you'll see a lot more information here.
Exactly. And you can filter this by specific time frame. You can do it by an hourly view, a daily view. You can break it down by 30 days, a longer window, 7 days, however much data you want to look at.
Nice.
Cool. Let's go over to org setup.
All right.
So when you're first setting up Coop, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we got when we first dropped the source code in V0 is that, hey, all these settings are in the database, and we need to actually put them in the interface to make it easier for people to get set up. So this is a brand new feature in 1.0. So here you just put in the basic information. If you have an email service connected to Coop, which we have kind of the infrastructure to set it up there, you just have to do it yourself. You can set in like an on-call alert email as well. For like any high escalations or outages, that's fully within your configuration. Coop also supports single sign-on. So from this page, you can enable it, you can configure it. supports SAML, and it just makes it a little bit easier. We'll go through what it looks like to create a new user and invite them to Coop as well, but this is yet another option that is built in. Coop also supports appeals. I think there's a lot of reasons why an organization might want to have a dedicated appeals workflow. There's also some legislation that impacts that. So let's say you take something down or you take an action on an account or on a post, you can actually set up an appeals queue and just like add your own endpoint. So like wherever someone is like triggering that appeal, that'll actually go to a dedicated dashboard with a dedicated queue where you can either uphold your prior decision or accept the appeal.
Yeah, and this is that example that Juan was talking about earlier of how Coop isn't just receiving things, but it's actually performing things back to your platform using these callback URLs.
When it comes to the review console, I definitely know everyone's got their own flavor of doing review. And so we try to add as many options and toggles here as we could. So some organizations might not want any action to take place without a corresponding policy to be selected. Another team might want to take it one step further and say, okay, the policy selected is not enough. I want the moderator to actually write down the reason of why they're making a specific decision on a given item. So all of that is configurable. You can also do things like you can prevent moderators from skipping. Skipping is kind of like a built-in button in the review UI. It can be helpful to try to figure out like if there are gaps in policies, but you can also just disable, enable it wherever you want. If you ignore a task, and here ignore is just like no action, no policy violation found, you can rename it to whatever you want. It is just one of the pre-built kind of like out of the box actions that Coop comes with. You can also have a webhook so that way you keep track of kind of like what was not actioned and why.
Yeah, again, the customizability for your platform, right?
This is something that I care deeply about, which is protecting the people that do this kind of work. Reviewing content, doing trust and safety work, doing anti-abuse work, it can be difficult. And so there are built-in wellness settings directly in Coop. So this takes place for the organization. So let's say you have a team of 50 users, moderators who are using Coop. By default, all of their media will be blurred, and you can set this on a blurring sliding scale, as Cassie was demonstrating. You can set all content to be grayscale, or you can also set it so all videos are muted by default.
And then this is overwritable, right? As a user?
Because everyone's got their own preferences. Everyone's got their own lived experiences. So as a user, I might say, you know what, I'm okay with color, or I'm okay with slightly less blurred stuff. And my own personal settings will actually override that of the organization.
Awesome. And then we have the other tab with some other things, right?
Yes, the other tab is kind of our catch-all for a bunch of other settings. These are a little bit more kind of like deep in the configuration space. So we have a partial items API. Juan, I'm going to tag you in to explain a little bit about what that does, but you can customize it all here.
Yeah, so partial items, it's a very interesting feature that we have. So when you integrate to Coop, obviously there's a lot of content that existed pre-Coop, right? There's a lot of things that maybe as you send items, you don't send the full information because it's just you're saving some bandwidth, or some of the information that we have or you need on our side for proactive rules may be minimal, right? You only need the name, the post information, and that's pretty much it. But when a moderator is moderating, it's kind of reviewing content, there may be extra data, extra signals, extra stuff that it's part of the content that needs to be fresh or that needs to be updated, and sending that updated data all the time may not be feasible for your platform. So instead, you can have this partial item setting where you define an endpoint where we call with the item ID and the ID of the item and the item ID, which sounds like the same thing, but it's not. So as you configure items on Coop, you have a unique identifier for that item. And then on the item itself, like that type of content, you can define the ID role of the item. So your identifier, so there's two identifiers that we send, the identifier on your system, and then the identifier of that type of content in our system. And then you send us back all the data that you want updated. So it's a partial update on the data that gets fed into the view as the moderator is looking at content, and then sort of supersedes whatever we store as a way to show the freshest information. So let's say a user account update, like when a user gets an account gets created, you send us the account details, but you never send any more information when the user updates their profile image or the name or whatever it is, because that may be too much. What this partial item may do is send the ID of the user with that item type, and then
get the latest.
we can get the latest data. Yeah, we can get the latest image that they have for their profile, or a post, the latest amount of likes and comments, or some sort of numeral, some sort of thing that may help the moderator perform the action and the investigation that they're performing. This runs on both investigation view or in the moderation view as the content view moderator on.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for that.
Again, all this is also in the docs, right?
Yes.
So
it's all in the docs. Yes.
If it was hurtful.
Yeah. The last interesting setting I want to call out here is you can set kind of like the time window where user strikes count. So Coop also has this kind of like form of automated enforcement, we're going to get to that, called user strikes. So you can actually add different weights to it. But for this purpose, you can just say, hey, I only want to count strikes from the last 90 days or from the last 30 days. So that way, maybe someone who, violated policy like 2 years ago isn't penalized over time if their behavior changes. Let's pop over to the manual review dashboard now.
Yeah. So this is the review console. I'm going to hide some of these columns because it just gets a little busy here.
And we have a patch coming for that as well.
Yes.
So the review console, this is kind of like the main core of Coop. So, it supports manual review, supports automated enforcement. You can use both. You can use one or the other. But for review consoles, like this is something I know every safety team needs. And honestly, you could use this for like labeling data. You can use this for ads review. You can use this for reviewing any kind of content or any kind of behavior that your team needs to do at scale. Anyone can create a new queue, or admins and moderator managers can create a new queue, and you can make this queue whatever you want. If you have language detection set up, you can make it so these queues are sorted by language. You can do it by policy area. And when you're creating this queue, you can actually set, who should have access to this queue. And especially if you have kind of like tiered workflows in Coop, you can actually set it where it's like maybe that first tier of triage, they shouldn't be able to delete accounts. So you can actually hide specific actions from specific queues as well. All of this is configurable. You get to decide what actions are available to who, what roles exist in Coop as well. And once you create that queue, it's going to show up on your dashboard. You can actually use a star to kind of like prioritize a dashboard queue as well. So if you want to pop it at the top, that's super helpful if you start getting like a lot of queues for different reasons.
Awesome. Very creatively named the specific policy queue. But yeah, awesome. Yeah. Should we show what reviewing a job looks like?
Yeah, let's do it.
Which queue should we jump into here?
Let's go with let's start with positive sentiment.
Let's do that one. I'll star it too because I like that one. Let's start reviewing positive sentiment.
So this review UI is completely customizable because we know that every team, every person who's doing this kind of review needs a different set of context. So you can make this look like however you want. For this demo, it's just pulling in posts from the app protocol. So here we've gotten just a post. We get to see other posts that this account has made in the past to kind of give you context on like, is this account dedicated to a certain type of behavior? Or is it, just like, what is the context that a post is being made in? You'll notice that the images here are blurred and black and white. And if you hover over it with your mouse, it'll actually unblur. So if you go all the way up to the top again, Cast. So at the top, let's pretend this is a user report. This can actually tell you how many user reports a given piece of content has had before. It tells you the data that you're looking at. So like, what is the content of the post? Who posted it? We've got their profile photo. We've got their display name. We've got their handle. When was it created? What is the associated account? So you can actually take an account level action here in addition to a content level action. But let's say, we're working the positive sentiment queue. We're not quite sure what counts as positivity. If you actually click view policy, that'll actually open up a panel where any policy that you've added to Coop will actually show up. And so I have spent years watching people look at a tool on one monitor, look at like a document on another monitor, maybe another corresponding tool on a third monitor. So ergonomics wise, we like to think that this makes it a little bit easier for moderators to really understand kind of like what are the guidelines and how should I take action on it. All the actions available in this UI are configurable. Like Juan mentioned earlier, there are some default ones that come with. So there's ignore, which is essentially there's no policy violation here. I'm not going to take an action. In queue to NECMEC, which triggers a specific NECMEC flow that aggregates it at the user. And then I've got this like fake action called delete post. I've got it set up where I can't take an action without putting a policy there. So if you put delete post, you can actually submit the action. You can also move a job from one queue to another. And I'll remind everyone again, this is all dummy data. There are no actions taking place. There are no real policies. But you can see here, like, there's another example of a post. And then I also have, if we want to look at it, a saved URL of a task with a video, if we want to look at how that renders.
Yeah, if you can share that with me in the chat, would probably be the easiest way, and I can pull that up.
Yep, let's see if this works.
So it's showing me recent decisions.
Oh,
Is that the
that's
right?
odd. Oh, I think it's because I actioned it already. Let's just go back to the queues. We'll show it again. Yeah.
Wrong tab here. There we go.
All good. So you'll notice there is a skip button here because we didn't disable it for anyone who's doing moderation. This is helpful, and just like it leaves the task open to be claimed by anyone else who's working in the queue as well. So here's another example of an image post. Coop supports image, text, video, and audio. Videos are also auto blurred, auto muted right now based on our wellness settings. And all of these can be actually escalated to NECMEC for workflows as well.
Awesome.
Cool. So why don't we, and the last thing, you can leave internal comments for your team as well. So this is helpful, especially if you have people working different languages. You can have someone put the translation or cultural context for a post. Or you can kind of like, if someone's skipping it, you can use it to say like, put a reason why you're skipping the task. These are only viewable to other Coop users in your organization.
One more thing here on that. So that's also persistent. So let's say you skip this report, you ignore it, and the content gets reported again by another person, right? Those comments will be there available. So you know, like, oh, this was reported again. Why wasn't these action on of some sort?
I was gonna do, but it probably has a lock on it still.
Oh, here's the video.
Oh, hey, here's a video one. Look at that. But yeah, so same thing here. It auto blurs and it doesn't auto play or anything to make sure that your safety is there. But I'm not sure what this video is, so I don't know if I want to play it. But
yeah, let's stay on the safe side. I think it's an animal video, but let's
right.
Yeah. So why don't we show the NECMEC flow next? Again, like any content that is showing in the NECMEC flow right now, we are not actually reporting to NECMEC. This is solely just to demonstrate the UI.
Demo. Do you want to enqueue this or just go straight to the NECMEC queue?
I put a few in the NECMEC queue earlier.
Oh, perfect. So if we go back to our queues.
Yep. And the NECMEC queue is enabled once you actually fill out your NECMEC settings. So this is separate from the organization settings, but if you have registered as an electronic service provider and NECMEC has given you your credentials, you can fill in the NECMEC settings here to essentially populate your cyber tip line reports. So there's a lot of helpful things here. You can select which queue NECMEC escalations and the NECMEC flow operates out of. You can put additional URLs for both your terms of service, your child safety policy, where should law enforcement send any legal process if they need to follow up on anything, as well as additional information endpoints so that you can kind of like get more context about a given user that you might be reporting.
Awesome. So jumping back into our NECMEC escalations queue. I hit start reviewing, so I dequeued something, I think, for an article.
No worries.
Something, but
I think this is just a picture of a boat or like a boat moving in satellite. So then you'll notice here that this interface looks really different from kind of like the standard interface for reviewing a job. And that's because for the NECMEC flow, it actually aggregates everything based on an account or a user. And the reason for that is because, one account might have multiple pieces of media that you want to be reporting to NECMEC. You don't actually want to be supporting, not legal advice, but I think that it helps NECMEC see a more comprehensive picture of a situation when they're not getting individual reports per media, but one aggregated report on a given account. So you see here, like the media is blurred, it is grayscale. We have additional wellness settings here, so you can slide that blurring scale all the way up or down, and you can also set that to color or not. This tells you information about the media itself, the account that posted it, and then fields from the Cyber Tip Line API. So at the top, you can select your incident type report, and these, again, are just straight from NECMEC Cyber Tip API. the bottom part, you can actually then select kind of the industry classification. So this is in our documentation. This is kind of like I believe it's like a voluntary classification schema that talks about kind of like the age of the victim as well as the severity of the type of abuse that's taking place. There are keyboard shortcuts in this workflow as well. And if you go down, or if actually to send a report, you have to select and label the media, and you have to select and label the other media as well. We also support a way for you to attach the labels that NECMEC uses to triage. So these are XML labels that show up in the UI. You can select them here. And that really just helps NECMEC prioritize and triage incoming reports. And those labels also get passed along to law enforcement if it gets escalated.
Awesome.
So if you're able to send it, if not, you have to.
Great. Where do I hit send? I'm trying to look.
Oh, so you have to.
It's blurred out, so I have to make a decision.
Classify all media.
You have to classify the other ones. So just select like none for the other ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There
you go. Cool.
Yeah.
And so when you send it, it'll give you a preview of the NECMEC report that you're sending. So the schema, again, is fully defined by you. But if you have IP address, that will automatically be attached because it is such a critical field for NECMEC and law enforcement to look into. You can also escalate this as high priority. This just tells NECMEC that like this is really important. Maybe it's a live victim, something's happening right now, and it needs to be looked at immediately. And again, just helps them triage. You can also add additional information. Here you can add context. You can say like this is a new trend that we're seeing on our platform, whatever information that you think might be helpful. And then you can send the report.
Again, not actually being submitted anywhere for real.
Yep, and we'll confirm that because every NECMEC report sent from Coop shows up in the NECMEC reports section. So you can see that one failed on purpose because we're not actually sending anything to NECMEC. But if you're a real life platform, if Platform A really exists and we are trying to send a NECMEC report, you can actually retry that. Again, it's going to fail right now because we have not wired this up.
Right. Oh, it gives you a nice little status pop-up. It says failed live. There you go.
All right, let's go back to the review dashboard, and then let's open another queue, and then I'll show everyone how we can click through to investigation. So
I know we have like a lot to demo. I'm just looking at time. We will probably be going over just for the audience to know if that we will probably be going over the hour mark. I don't know if we ever officially said how long this would be, but we were planning for about an hour. We're a little behind, but we've been sharing some good details, so we'll move along.
Great. So if you go into one of any task, you can actually go ahead and click the like gray link above in the middle.
Sorry, the gray
reported item. And so once you copy that, you can actually go to the investigations page and paste that in. So investigation really just shows you like everything Coop or the system knows about a given user. So here we just have one report, but let's say you've been using Coop in production for a long time. It'll show you that full context. Let's go to routing rules now.
Yes. All right. We've got routing rules.
Great. So Cassidy did kind of demonstrate this earlier with Zentropi, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but this is kind of acting as like the triage air traffic control. As user reports or whatever you want to manually review flow into Coop, you can set up these rules using any of the signal library. You could do it based on keyword matches. You could do it based on integrations. You can do it based on hash matches. And you can actually say, if something meets this threshold or meets these parameters, send it to this queue.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really powerful, and this is how you set up, making sure your trust and safety operation is working the way that your organization works.
Yeah. So let's pop over to automated enforcement because there's another type of rule here. And so these are the proactive rules, automated enforcement rules. The UI is really similar, except in this case, it's not directly going to lead to manual review. You can actually have this trigger an action on its own. So you can see here, like this is, again, like let's say we hate art, we don't want art on our platform. You can put in a bunch of keywords related to art and artists or whatever. Replace this kind of keyword list with like, maybe it's slurs, maybe it's profanity, anything that you want to do. This is fully up to you and your platform's policies. So same thing here. You just select what you want the rule to run on. You select what kind of signal you want to use, and you can then select the action that you want it to take.
Yeah, and these are built in. There's some built-in ones like regular expressions and text banks, and then there's all your integrations here as well for signals.
Exactly.
Yep.
So once you select your action, then you can select, you want to have a policy associated with that action as well. When you're creating a rule, you can either deploy it and have it start actioning things right away, or you can also run it in background to try to figure out, like, okay, like it's not actually going to trigger any action, but how many things is it actually going to catch? There's also ways where you can also test the rule. So that's a handy way just to make sure that like this is really catching what you want it to catch. There's additional features here like tags. So if you have like 15 rules all associated with fraud, or if it's a specific spam ring or account takeover ring, you can also tag them so you can better organize all of your rules too.
And the daily action limits means you can say if you are like testing something out or you only want a certain amount of things to happen every day, you can limit your action to only take that many actions, which is really interesting. And you can expire things, right?
Yeah,
So,
you can say, I only want this rule to take place during the Knicks game because, there's going to be like crazy activity online. But you know what? After, hopefully game 5, then the rule will expire. So let's go over to the other types of automated enforcement. We've got matching banks. There's 3 types of matching banks in Coop. So the first up is a text bank. So let's say you have so many words related to artists, or you have so many words related to spam, and you don't want to keep typing them over and over again every time you create a rule. You can actually create a text bank. It's essentially a database. And so when you're creating a rule, you can actually say, switch this from just a keyword to a text bank. And so as you update this list, that rule will automatically update as well.
Nice.
The second type of bank that we have is a location bank. And so this is really handy if like you want to create rules or, put logic that only takes place in a certain place. In the interest of time, maybe we kind of gloss over this one.
Yeah.
But essentially you can integrate Google Maps API with this, or any Maps API or data provider of your choice, or you can use a geohash, which you just take the lat long, go to 2000s era looking website and convert it to a geohash, and then you can set the radius there.
Yeah.
The third type of matching bank is a hash bank. And so this is what we feel is really, really powerful because we've built this integrated with HMA, Hasher, Matcher, Actioner. And so any bank that you create here is also created in HMA. HMA has a way, if you go to create hash bank, to select third-party signal exchanges as well. That includes NECMEC, that includes Stop NCII, that includes Tech Against Terrorism. You still have to get your own credentials to get access to those hash banks. But let's say if you select NECMEC, we can then kind of say, okay, if you're going to use NECMEC, which environment do you want to get these hashes from? Are there certain electronic service providers or companies that you want to get hashes from? And then you put in your exchange credentials. And so this is a nice way to look for known CSAM. And then the Content Safety API, which is available as another integration, helps find novel CSAM. But it's only available for routing rules for manual review. You can also create hash banks of your own. This is really helpful if you're dealing with like impersonation or account takeovers or bots. A lot of times bots or any of those types of abuse areas will create accounts using the same profile image. So you can try to say like, okay, this we know is a real person's account. If we see further accounts being created with this image, we can take some kind of automatic action there.
Nice.
And finally, the third part of automated enforcement is user strikes. So we know that not all violations are the same. You can actually add weights to your different policies. So let's say we can put child safety policies, and we can adjust that weight to like 5 or to 7. And then you can set your own thresholds to say, if an account has had this number of strikes and it passes this threshold, take this action. There's certain actions you can toggle on and off, and then this lets you set the threshold, as well as, similar to the organization settings, how long you want to count strikes for. And it's got an analytics tab there as well, where you can take a closer look at kind of like, how many users are triggering strikes for you to adjust.
Nice. Again, not a whole lot of data in here as our demo, but this would be much more interesting on a real platform. Awesome. Yeah. That's a whole lot. There's a whole lot of things in Coop, and there's probably a whole lot more we didn't touch on yet. But I think that gives people a really good look at what Coop actually looks and feels like to use, what it can do day to day. So thank you, Juliet, for running us through that. We have a few minutes here left for. We actually have an adopter with us. Hopefully, Kyodo is still around. Yes, awesome. We can jump in and actually do a little bit of Q&A, I think, with Kyodo here. So let me invite them in. And All right. So we have here with us the co-founder of Kyodo, which is a platform that is a. I guess I'll let you describe what this platform is. You'll do a better job than me, right?
Yes, thank you for having me. So Kyoto is a home for fandom communities, whether it's like, a big like community for like anime or a specific like little niche like a YouTuber or your own like little roleplay central. Really cool. Basically people get to create their own like, home, right? Like their own like home on the internet. Um, we love Kyoto, and because Kyoto is super customizable and you can do whatever you want, basically, means that there's also moderation implications. That's why we would really like to, why we use Coop, right? Because like empowers moderation on our platform.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks awesome. I love your guys' design. It's beautiful. You have a great design sense. So I always love seeing your website and your platform. So I know, let's see. I know you all started actually using Coop before the 1.0 release. Can you share a little bit about how you came across it and decided to give Coop a try?
Yes, of course. So I was like scrolling on LinkedIn a really long time ago, and I saw a post from like Roost itself, like saying like, hey, Coop and other like really cool tools. And that really struck my interest. So I basically lurked around and waited for a good opportunity for us to actually switch over to Coop from our own proprietary software, which is really, really cool. And so far, it's been amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's I love, social media works, right? So you found us on LinkedIn of all places. That's awesome. I know, let's see. Can you share a little bit about how Coop has worked for you so far? Like what has it helped you do? How's it been going?
It's been great. So we used to have like our own software, which was kind of scuffed, in my opinion. And Coop is a much better version of what we built. So we were like, why build our own thing if we can have something that's maintained by a really competent team, right? So it's been helping us like take care of like known patterns for like example bots or very like specific scenarios, and also moderation appeals and like especially like bots. Bots are a very big pain point, so it helps a lot actually.
Awesome. And I know we've talked a little bit before about you were researching hosted services, and as an open source project, Coop is very different from that, right? It's a very different experience. It's very different implications. How have you found that experience, or like what's interesting there? Because I think other people will find themselves in the same boat.
So at first I was a little bit like hesitant, of course.
Sure.
But yeah, no, when we like compared Coop to a lot of other like platforms, we realized that Coop is objectively less expensive. And as we like tried using Coop and we started setting it up, the community, especially the maintainers, were incredibly supportive of like actually setting it up. Whereas, for example, you'd have to like send a support email, have to wait for the support. It's much more personal in that case, right? Like it's easier.
I like to tell people that like open source is like we're the original like internet native people, right? Like as doing distributed development of things and coordinating online, like we're very used to like live chatting and responding to emails and working together on things and public issue trackers. So yeah, very different experience from like a support email at a corporation, right? When you can just get in and talk to the people who are actually building it and other people who are adopting it too.
Very sweet. Yeah,
awesome,
for sure.
Yeah, and I know. So looking at, I've done a little bit of looking at Kyodo, and you've described it as like a place where you can build your own communities. And you mentioned that there's like moderation implications there. Can you share a little bit about how these features, like the Kyodo's platform moderation features, sort of interact with Coop? Because I know it's like Coop is the external moderation thing, and then you have your built-in moderation. How does that work?
Yeah, so we built Kyoto with like an own like proprietary like system. So we now have two systems for this. We have Coop and we have our own. Um, so how it works is inside of the app, you would report, for example, a post, and then it would go into two queues, one for Coop and one for the users themselves. Because in every like community, you can like moderate it yourself, right?
Gotcha.
So
Yeah. So the communities
we have like
themselves have
two.
mods within
Yes,
that community.
exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. And like they have their own queue. However, our like actions overlap theirs. So like whenever we do something, their queue gets closed or like their items get
Mm.
closed.
Hmm.
It was very complex to like modify, but it's very much worth it. So yeah,
Mm.
no, it was really cool.
That's cool. Yeah. So it enables those communities to still be like self-moderating up to an extent, but then you as the host of the platform itself, like you have the final say. You can make sure that users are ultimately safe on the platform using Coop.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Awesome.
that's one of our like top priorities, user safety, for sure.
Awesome. And I know this is always like one of those loaded questions, like tell us good things about Coop. But what would you say is your favorite part of Coop? Or maybe a better way to think about it is like, what's something you think maybe is like underrated that people might not realize is such a good thing?
That's a really like good thing, like a really good question. Because like V1 is already like, you know, full of features. It's really, really, really impressive. Um, yeah, like the NECMEC reporting flow, game changer. Absolute game changer.
Mm.
Is also one of the main reasons why we wanted to like go for Coop. Because like it's such a like pain to do as like a moderator, like having to go through the forms or setting it up yourself, like an automated flow. So no, this is really powerful, like combined with automation and, you know, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that NECMEC, I mean, we've done a lot to make it streamlined in Coop itself, and then I've seen what it looks like to do a manual NECMEC report, and yeah, it's a lot. So it's
Yeah.
really powerful to be able to enable child safety through that through the open source tool. Is there one last question for you before we move on to a couple other things here? But is there anything you would like to see from Coop in the future, or anything that you're kind of looking forward to seeing developed more?
Yeah, like I said, V1 has a lot of features. It's really, really impressive. The one feature we would love to see eventually is like being able to show the users like the status of reports. For example, like
Mm.
getting data from Coop and then showing it in like the app to like show, hey, you know, this report is in progress or this report has been handled.
Mm.
You know, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and I know I've seen it's like having a little bit more transparency of seeing like this post has been reported, here's the status of it, or something like that. I know there's been a lot of discussion around transparency reporting and legal requirements for transparency reporting in certain jurisdictions. So yeah, more of a two-way API to get data from Coop would be really interesting. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. That would be awesome.
We'll make sure that's filed as an issue. Awesome.
Amazing.
Well, thank you so much for joining. Yeah,
Thank you for having
we
me.
hope you stick around in the community, and if anybody else is considering adopting Coop and joining the community, you'll probably see folks from Kyodo around in our Discord and GitHub, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
And before we go to the next section, I unfortunately have to leave early to go teach a class, but I'm going to hand it over to Cass and Yuan to tell us a little bit about where does Coop go from here. And then we have a very special guest to round us out. So thanks, everyone. I'll see you soon.
Yes. Thanks, Juliet. Thanks for joining. Sorry we're going over. We'll try to wrap this up.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, let's chat a little bit about where does Coop go from here. Juan, I think you said you can take this and chat a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can try.
Share. we can take it together. It's
I'm
good.
definitely no Juliet, but I can try my best to get this. Yeah, I think your question to Kyoto, it's a great transition to where do we go from here, and to kind of talk a little bit more, not to praise as much and all of that, but at the same time, it being an open source project, it definitely means that community features and community requests take certain priority beyond just like us saying, oh, we want to build this thing, right? Because an actual adopter saying like, you know, this feature will be very useful, has a lot more weight, or somebody saying, hey, I want to adopt but there's this thing that it's missing. It becomes this thing. It's like, oh, that is a priority because there is an actual tangible need that we should close that gap on. And that is a call to action for anybody watching either the stream or after the stream, the VOD, right? It's like, hey, if you see something in Coop, you start testing it locally, which we have a great guy on how to test it locally and start working on it, right? It's like, there's this thing on a moderation tool that we use, or there's this thing that we've been looking into for a moderation tool. We would love to have that, right? We would love to have that. So those are the kinds of things that I encourage everybody to just file an issue, join our Discord, kind of voice yourself, join our discussions. We have a bi-weekly, which is another plug here. We do have a bi-weekly office hours where you can come in and we can have a conversation around features. As we develop features, and we worked on this, I tried my best to get community feedback as well. It's like, hey, I'm building this thing. And today I did that, right? I'm building a way for tag in IPs as an auto investigation vector of like, hey, these are all the posts or all the users that share the same IP, right? This is how I'm building this thing. What do you all think? What are the things that we can improve? And those are the kinds of things that you get from a community, from an open source project. But to kind of give more concrete examples of what's coming right now, we are looking into an into QA for quality assurance of reports. So basically, hey, moderators provided some feedback or took an action on some content, but as you train new moderators, you want to have some sort of sampling rate to make sure that that action was the appropriate one, that was the appropriate policy, right? So you can do some training. That is something that is coming, integrating with Osprey, which is an older open source tool that we own and we have and we distribute, just to build a more complete package. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have Osprey to run Coop. Everything that we do, it's pluggable pieces, right? Think of it as a puzzle, and we're building more puzzle pieces to help you integrate it in any way that you want to do. Some AI, LLM agent investigation. There's different categories that we've talked about, from enforcement or rules or labeling on AI, LLM, to investigation, like background investigation and clustering and finding content with agents. Those are kind of things that we are actively talking about and looking into and planning for our roadmap, as well as things that come in from from older adopters or things that we see that could be very useful for adopters. There's that.
Each of these items on our sort of where does Coop go from here were also things that came up from within the community and from within the adopters, right? These are things we've heard. That's why we're prioritizing them.
Exactly.
Several adopters who are like, hey, we want Osprey for like deep investigation and automated rules, and we want Coop for the review dashboard. So we're hearing that feedback and we're actioning.
Yeah, or we want to send an item, instead of having rules in 2 different platforms, send it from one place, receive the report, or all of these things, right? But yes, they all come from community. They come from our discussions. You can join our discussions. You can see our roadmap, which is public, and you can kind of comment on it and talk about the things that you would like to see, and join our working group or Discord.
Awesome. And to share a little bit more about where could Coop come from here, we also actually have some guests from University of Massachusetts Rescue Lab. I can bring them in if they're here. Yeah, I see them here. Let's pull them up here. Oops, why is that? There we go. Hey, there we go. I'm gonna tweak your name just to pull it, not cover your face on the stream. There we go. Now we can see your face.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome. Yeah. Can you share a little bit about, I know Juliet was hoping to kind of go through this with you all since she's been working more closely with you. I have some notes, but I can also let you all just kind of chat about, what has your work been? I know you have been doing work related to Coop at Rescue Lab.
Well, also Sahil Sharma is here with me as well. I can't see him on the screen.
Yes.
I'm not sure
yes.
if you brought him
Sahil
in
and
as well.
Brian are both here. You're showing on the stream. I'm not sure. Yeah, you're both here.
Okay, great. So I'm Brian Levine. I'm a distinguished professor here at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. I co-direct Rescue Lab with another professor, George Vicius, here at UMass. And Rescue Lab has worked for 2 decades to thwart online child sexual exploitation by offering free tools, free research, and our lab's output is used internationally by investigators to rescue children. And our work also informs the public about the difficulties and challenges in this area. So we've been grateful to have the opportunity this last year to do work supported by Roost to contribute open source code to Coop that hopefully will help address the problem of child sexual exploitation on internet platforms. Sahil Sharma, who's a research fellow at UMass here in Rescue Lab, is here with me. He's going to talk about the work for a couple minutes. Sahil and another research fellow, Manisha Miriala, are really the secret weapons here at UMass that do all this great work. So I'll let Sahil take it away.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, I'm Sahil. I've been working at Rescue Lab for the past 5 years, and I'll be talking about the exciting work we are doing with Coop and the things we have done already. So we have built a Dockerized evaluation harness to evaluate the performance of clip-like models, which is a neural network-based model that generates embedding vectors capturing the semantics of an image. And this can be run locally by an organization with the data set that they have. We are also integrating Clip into Coop to run semantic hashing on images and flag harmful content. Semantic hashing uses a semantic uh, content captured in the embedding vector of an image rather than traditional techniques that use pixels to recognize content. So, for example, the image of a dog will be similar or will be more closely matched with another image of an animal like cat compared to maybe a table. Um, we are also working on integrating the Sentinel library into Coop. Sentinel can be used to flag grooming in real-time textual conversations. Next, we'll work on making semantic hashing work on videos. Harmful video content is on the rise, and having a solution to flag harmful video content would greatly help users of Coop. So that's the
Yeah, absolutely.
update from our end.
That's
I'll hand
awesome.
it over to the Coop team.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you. I've seen you all doing. Oops, we're getting some echo. I think there we go. Sorry, I muted you, Sahil. I was getting a little bit of echo back there, but yeah, we've been seeing so much awesome work from you at Rescue Lab, integrating with Coop. It's really cool. I think with Coop being an open source project, it means that it's accessible for not just platforms doing things in production, but also for like research labs and for universities and publicly funded things to actually have a real tool to then integrate with and make the space better for everyone. So it's very exciting work that you all are doing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anything else you all wanted to share, or we can move on as well?
I think it's good to move on given the time. So thanks
All
so
right.
much for that.
Thank you so much. Sorry it was so brief, but thank you, Sahil and
Thank you.
Brian, for joining. Awesome work. I think we're almost about wrapped here. We have if we do another stream in the future, we'll do some more like community Q&A. Planning, we'll probably do some streaming in the future. But I think we'll move on to sort of our call to action, signing off. If you all, let me share I keep forgetting that my screen is not shared the whole time here. Here we go. You can find more information about Coop on the web at roost.tools/Coop. You can get to the source code and everything related to the open source project at github.com/roostorg/Coop. You can also join our chat. This is where you can find the developers, contributors, other adopters, fans, people hanging out on Discord. I'm not going to read the Discord URL, but you can see it there, or we'll link it in the description as well afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share, Juan? Anything else you want to kind of chat about? I guess we want to point to the roadmap. I know Juliet mentioned that too.
The roadmap, and then the other thing, as you mentioned, right? Please just ask any questions. Join our community. We're more than happy to help you integrating. Yes. If you are a new contributor, you just love the game, right? Love like helping open source. You're also welcome to come. We'll do our best to help you level up and kind of contribute and work with us on building a safer, more open internet.
Yeah, awesome. And there's always outstanding work and outstanding issues and pull requests and things and discussions looking for feedback. You can join the GitHub, find something to come in, chat about, work with us on, and we would love to see you.
Definitely.
That I think. Thank you for joining. If any of those things doesn't make sense for you, if you want to send an email, you can always email us at hello@roost.tools. Especially if you want to talk, partnership, adoption, or anything that doesn't fit cleanly into those other categories. But yeah, thank you for joining this first stream celebrating Coop 1.0 with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.